Bouyon. That's like a sauce. Hey, Pepe.
C'est incroyable.
Proud of it, proud of it, proud of it, proud of it. Proud of it, proud of it, proud of it, proud of it. With all the wonders in the world, St. Lucia's only meant for me. So much history to be told and so much more for eyes to see. The colors feel the love, I can tell you all the way. Proud of it, proud of it, proud of it, proud of it. It don't matter where I voyage, it don't matter where I go. Majestic become stand.
Do you hear that rumbling? That's not thunder, that's the hurricane hole! Ray of sunshine. It's $50 all-inclusive barbecue. Happening Saturday, July 12th, 193 Vernon Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. From 5 to 10 p.m. 5 hours of straight category 5 thunderous vibes. Food flowing, drinks flowing, vibes turn all the way up. Musically, shelling the place down. DJ Speedo Meeting.
Yeah, talk to me now.
And DJ Bashi. From old school classics to dancehall beat to soca madness to the tunes that make you wanna bust a wine till sunset. This is not a sit-down event. This is a bring your big energy kind of line. So rally the crew and enter the hole. The Hurricane Hole, Ray of Sunshine, July 12th, 193 Vernon Avenue.
DJ Souls and Momo present Sunrise to Summer. Sunrise to Summer. Most anticipated event for the summer. It goes down Saturday, June 27th at Legends Place, 495 East and 95th Street. Get ready for the Total Destruction crew. DJ Kev, Top of the Line Family, DJ Young G, and the birthday boy coming through. The Simpler X, live on the record of Vinci. Tickets are only $20. You pay more at the door. With drinks on sale and food on the house. Saturday, June 27th, Sunrise to Summer. New York, get ready. This is gonna be a movie.
In this life I don't want no stress. Yeah, I just wanna have fun. In this life I don't want no stress. Yeah, I just wanna have fun. Every cent you spend, there's the ones who counting. That ain't making sense. They can't see when pressure mounting. Now my life is his, and your life is yours. I don't leave us a please. I know this I'm sure, but you know I'm too like me. You don't tell me.
Good afternoon, or rather good evening. Welcome to another episode of Bouyon. I am your host, of course, Peter D. And today is this very, very special day. It is Father's Day. So I want to wish every father everywhere, in every part or each part of the world, happy Father's Day. With me, I have three amazing persons, three fathers with me. But before I introduce them, I want to play a short clip. Just saying happy Father's Day to our fathers, you know, just a short song, 2 minutes. So while this song is playing, I want to encourage you guys to please like and share the video so that persons can join us on the live.
From my one.
So who say man no day?
Daddies, them say we don't know how to marry, we just they worry. Daddies, them say all we do is to run away from the babies. Daddies, every day we do this and that. Them say we no be responsible. No be everybody there like that. It just be funny cause if man no day, if puppy no day, then waiting we gain. If man no day, if man no day, how we go exist? Happy Father's Day to you. Happy Father's Day to you. Happy Happy Father's Day
To every man where they fight for their responsibility.
Happy Father's Day
To you,
Happy Father's Day
to you.
Happy Father's Day
To every man where they do everything for the family.
Papa no they complain no, even when it's in pain. Cause man must hustle to maintain no. So show love before it's too late. Popita such another Moti biara but mountain show love. And when you ma bon come on Moti biara but mountain show love. Cause if man no day, if Poppy no day, then wait till we get. If man no day, me then you no go day. Happy Father's Day
To you,
Happy Father's Day
to you.
Happy Father's Day
To every man where they fight for their responsibility.
Happy Father's Day
To you,
Happy Father's Day
to you.
Happy Father's Day
To every man where they do everything for the family.
Alele.
Happy Father's Day. Hello, everybody. Good night. Let me just tell Kurt, for some reason I'm not seeing you. I don't know why.
Oh my gosh.
So let's see if you can add yourself back. Can you hear me, Kurt?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
I'm
for
not
some
sure
reason,
what
I don't know.
happened.
Your camera went off on you. So let's try again. And maybe you could do the same thing we did, go back out and come back in and see if that works for you.
Okay.
I just want to say good night, happy Father's Day to all of the fathers in the house. Gentlemen, my guests, I want to say good night to you guys. How are y'all doing tonight? Good night. I want to start with you, Pastor KEROL. How are you? Pastor Daniel, how are you?
Good night. I'm doing amazing. I because of where I am right now, I feel great.
I'm not going to ask you where you are, though.
You could. I am eager to disclose.
Where are you then?
Well, I'm in the beautiful island of St. Lucia, enjoying the sunshine and the sweet mangoes.
You're better than me. You're better than me. So I want to say good job. Kudos to you. I shall be doing mine in the next, I think next 3 weeks, I shall be in St. Lucia. So,
All right.
so you're ahead of me, but that's all right. I could take that. Good. Welcome back. Bernard,
Good
how
night,
are you doing,
everyone.
sir? How are you? I think you're muted, Bernard. Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry. I'm doing pretty well. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers in the group and also online who are tuned in. Thanks for the invitation.
No problem. Kurt, good evening to
Yes.
you. How are you?
Hi, good night, everyone. Yes, I'm doing great. Happy Father's Day as well to everybody, all the fathers out there. I'm very excited to be here right now.
Good. I'm happy that you accepted the invitation. And if you didn't know, that's my nephew. So just letting everybody know, that's my nephew. So guys, let's just start with a little kind of background information, let people know who you guys are. Tell us about how many children you'll have, if you don't mind. So we'll start with the younger one, the one who has only just started making children. So Kurt, we'll go with you.
All right. Well, I have one son. His name is Nathan DIEUDONNE. He's a year and 6 months this month. So I'm really new to fatherhood.
Welcome, son. Welcome, Pastor Daniel.
Very much.
I have two beautiful daughters. Kalia, who is soon to be 9, Kalia Danielle. She's soon to be 9 by the end of this month. And I also have Kalani Grace Danielle, who is 5 years old. And I'm such a proud dad of those two.
Nice. Bernard, tell us a little bit about you, brother.
Yes, I father of 4. I have 3 daughters and a son. And you will tell something when I call the names. In terms of, I didn't have much to do with it, but the Bijane, Bunel, Bouyon, and Bernice.
Okay, cool. Thanks. All right. So let me ask you, Bernard. I want to start with you. What does it feels like being a father? What does being a father mean to you?
To me, it just places you in terms of your role in this society, in terms of this existence, why you're here, and it kind of reminds you, and it kind of jolts you. It's a reality check, really, because you are part of the process of sustaining this, generations and so on, humanity, and you have to identify, start to demarcate, the areas that you're responsible for, what you have control over, and to see how much you can influence the generation that you're bringing up. And you want to make sure that that you want to fashion in terms of their thinking and so on, but at least to align them into the thoughts that based on my experiences and my anticipation and my expectations and so on. And so it's in a sense, it's a fun thing, but it's also, especially now with the times as it is, you want to make sure that your kids are prepared for what's coming. And in my case, I'm the kind of person I am. I'm thinking my central theme is independence. I've always learned it from the time you leave your home, you have to start thinking of being independent. And when you're independent, you have to make sure that you secure, to make sure you lay a path for your children to be independent as well. Both independent of thought, economically independent, and so on. So at least you want to make sure that the next generation is safe, because then as you want them to learn from your example. You don't want them to probably go through the same thing that you went through. So as much as possible, obviously the key thing for independence is education. And you want to make sure that they get a good education, that they get good values as well, and that they understand the place in the world, that you can't just be existing. You need to be able to, all of us want a better world, and so it's difficult for any one person to be able to deliver on that, but you want to at least play a part. Because I keep asking myself, when 20 years from now, 30 years from now, my kids will ask me, what did you do now to secure a better future for them and for St. Lucia and the planet? So that's what preoccupies me in terms of, once I become a father, I say, okay, well, I have certain responsibilities. There's certain things that will change, as you grow older, and as you see the kids growing older as well. And as they become their own person, then you have to start to adjust, because they're very different from you. I mean, my kids tell me every day that they see things totally different to the way I see it. So I have to accept that reality, but still prepare them for the eventualities of the demands of life. It's pretty tough, and it's going to get tougher, but it's going to be fun as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Bernard. Pastor Daniel, in your words.
Well, for me, because my kids are pretty young, it's a bit of mixed emotions, in the sense that I recognize the need to shape and mold them, but I also acknowledge my limitation, because they have not hit puberty yet, and that comes with a different level of experience and challenge. I see myself as a steward, because as a man of faith, I know that those kids belong to the Lord. And as a steward, you have to be a good manager. You have to ensure that you do right by those kids. And so, because right now they are they are at the point where they're being a sponge, just taking in everything. The responsibility is great. I cannot slack off. I cannot take a day off. I have to, inculcate in their minds those values, those principles, and to make sure that I don't just say something, but I lead by example. So I'm seeing them growing, right before my eyes. And sometimes I tell myself, I'm really the father of two children, and I'm responsible for two girls, and to, teach them what a man, should be like, and to be an example to them. I stopped imagining, trying to imagine what it would be like if I had a son. I think girls are the greatest, and whoever has sons, kudos to you. But I mean, you being a girl's dad, it's just amazing.
Kudos to you for having two girls, so that's on you. I myself, I have a boy and a girl, so they're great. Yes. Kurt, what about you?
Okay, what does being a father mean to me?
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think it's a sense of responsibility that there's another life that's dependent upon me, for guidance, for survival, for everything. It has forced me to become a lot more responsible, to understand that it's not just about me anymore, and just to, try to instill in him the proper values and the proper tools that he would need, so the older he gets, he could go through life, and understand and face the challenges, that life will throw at him. So ultimately, that's what I think it is for me so far at least. Because like I said, I'm a young father, so I'm just kind of, getting my feet wet.
Yeah, you're a very young father. You're very new, so that's true. But I'm happy that's kind of how you're looking at things, and that's really important, because just like me being a dad of two, I always feel that I am supposed to set the example for them. I'm supposed to kind of help design that roadmap, that they should follow. And the thing is, sometimes we think our kids, when we're having conversations, they're not listening, but they're always listening. Sometimes they're in the game. My son is playing his game, and then you'd say something, and then maybe half an hour later, he might just come back with something you spoke about earlier on, and he might just say, but so and so, and you're like, were you listening? So kids actually, they're very attentive. So we have to also be careful of the conversations we have around our children. We have to be careful. I want to say good night to everybody who have joined us. Tonight we're not going to be calling names, individual names, because we have a lot I'd like to discuss. But we want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so very much. We want to encourage you guys to like and share the live. Tell a friend to tell a friend that we're on, and we are discussing fathers, and it's all about Father's Day. Bernard, what is your greatest lesson that fatherhood has taught you?
That it's serious business. I mean, you learn as you go along as well, and I'm sure Kurt will find that out as well. There are textbooks you can follow, the people you can talk to, you can be guided, and so on. But everybody has a different set of experiences, and you learn differently as you go along. So one of the first things is taught me that this is serious business. You have, like I say, you're preparing lives for the next generation, and so on, and you're preparing to play your part. You're preparing, young people who will play a part in the development of a country, in the world, and so on. So the biggest thing it taught me that you need to take things. It is serious business, because I mean, sometimes when you're growing up, before you become a father, there's certain things that you do. I mean, I remember when I would drive to get somewhere, but once I had my first kid, I certainly was holding up traffic. You know what I mean? So you figure, yes, there are precious lives on board. You need to understand certain things. So the biggest thing for me was that this is serious. It's that you need to take it seriously, whether you're a single parent or you're married or whatever it is. But once you're a father, no matter what the circumstances are, you need to take this seriously.
Thank you for that. Before I go to you, Pastor Daniel, I just want to read something because somebody just kind of alluded to the fact that you're not just a father of two, but you seem to be a father of a community, and said, Pastor Daniel works 24/7, not just as a father, but a leader in the community, answering calls and being there to provide support 24/7 as well. And then they said laugh out loud. So they have the little thing while they say talking about you, Pastor Daniel. So tell us what one of the greatest lessons fatherhood has taught you.
Well, I am just fascinated by how much my children are looking up to their father. Of course, mom is present, very much involved, but dad is the fun dad, and I have to show up. I have been almost everything to my daughter, and I try to think about how my dad raised me and his contribution to my life and who I have become today. And there are some things that I took, and there are some things that I wanted to change. Okay, I'm not going to go into the specific things, as such, but like Mr. Bernard said, you learn as you go along. And I have a philosophy that the mind is not something to be filled, but a fire to, kindle. One of the great philosophers, he posited this concept and his thought. So I always try to teach my children how to think for themselves. And as a father, it has taught me to be patient and to allow them to make mistakes and to grow. So I've had to, remove my hand, because I used to put my hand under everything. My kids couldn't fall. Last week I watched my daughter, my younger daughter, and she has a bruise on her knee. And I'm like, when did that happen? I don't think it was under my watch. And these are some of the things that has taught me that you're not always going to be there. And if I should share, 2 weekends ago, my daughter, who has always been asking me to preach, right? She's the older one. Daddy, I want to preach. I know I can preach, and we go back and forth. I always have my video going or my audio going, because they are going to drop something that I don't want to miss. And she's like, preaching is easy. I can do that. I can do it. What's so hard about it? And this one could preach and whatnot. I'm like, okay, well, Children's Day is going to come up. You'll get your turn. And I helped her prepare the message. We went through it, and I had to be somewhere else. One of my pastor friend was getting installed, into a new church. I'm like, okay, well, my daughter is preaching for the first time. My pastor friend, is his installation, and it's both of them are equally important. But I said to myself, and this is the point I'm getting at, I have prepared my daughter, and this was an opportunity to show that, hey, you're not always going to be there, but you have prepared, and you're supposed to prepare the children to be independent and to be able to stand. And I said, listen, you got daddy's iPad, you got daddy's pulpit, you got daddy's approval, you go preach, girl. And, I was just amazed and blown away by her presentation and what she was able to do. And so it has taught me that I'm not always going to be there. And, I need to prepare her quickly. She was probably maybe 6 when I bought 5 books, right? Think and Grow Rich. Some of those books, and I said to my wife, if anything happened to me, make sure my daughters read those 5 books, okay? These 5 books, they have to read those 5 books, because that is what's going to help them. I mean, of course, including the Bible, they must know the Lord. But this is how eager I am to helping my children to grow and to, be the person that will help them to be successful in life. These 5 books are somewhere tucked away at home. And I said, if anything happened to me and I'm not there to say, read this, that is going to help you through life, make sure my kids read these books.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much. Kurt, the new dad man is here. How did it feel when you first found out that you were going to be a father?
Oh, man. How did I feel? I was a range of emotions. Excited, nervous, a little bit of fear, as if anything. But ultimately, I think I was just happy about becoming a father. I think I was up for the challenge. I was ready for it. So yeah, man, it was a range of emotions for sure.
And I want to pose that question. I know, Bernard, you have four kids. Pastor Daniel, you have 2. But what was what do you remember the moment you became a father? Do you remember that day when it was the first time you became a dad? Bernard, do you remember that day and how you felt?
Vaguely, I mean, it was 4 kids ago. Because it's a life-changing thing in a sense. I mean, I don't remember the exact day to say this is the baby and so on, but it's a life-changing thing. I mean, well, in my case, I wasn't married, so you get the news that yes, you're going to be a dad. It's first of all, because it's never planned. Even if you anticipate and you're thinking along those lines. So you have to, first of all, deal with that reality that, okay, wow, this is really happening. And then now you have to recover very quickly in terms of, well, in my case, certainly, and try to figure out, okay, well, this is a reality. Now I've learned to just deal with my reality as it is. I don't know if you play cricket, but I've learned to just deal with the pitch that you have. You can complain about the pitch. So this is a situation that I have to deal with now. So let me deal with it as quickly as possible. And so I had to make quick adjustments because I know this is a serious thing, and you want to be supportive and so on. And so it was, just overnight you have to accept and say, all right, well, this is the reality. This is the new playing field. So I have to deal with it. And so you just very quickly, and you're excited about, the prospects and so on. Because by then you are mature adult, and you basically, this was expected in a sense. So it's not a complete surprise, which is the timing probably took you off. But, you have to just deal with it and go with the flow.
Sure. How about yourself, Pastor Daniel?
I'm not sure if you're ready for my experience, but and most of my experience would surround the firstborn, because after the firstborn, you're like, okay, well, I've been there, done that, and persons accuse you of not being so excited when the second, child come, and they would often say things in the local parlance or vernacular, never see, come crazy, that kind of thing. But we were ready for our child, our daughter. We were not sure what, the child would be, but we had planned it. We said we're going to finish education. Some persons have their children, and there are persons whose children are graduating and have graduated, and they're, persons my age. And kudos to you. In part, I envy you, but sometimes life is lived, you pursue different path. But we were ready. So I was waiting, and I thought, after 6 years of marriage, we said we're not going to have any kids, anytime, right away. So we thought kids come whenever you want kids. Okay. So biologically speaking, I'm like, you know what? Whenever we're ready, it's just going to come. And then I'm like, wait, we've been trying for 6 months. What happened? And I'm like, Lord, I thought whenever you want to have kids, then you do stuff that will facilitate that is going to come. And that wasn't so. So when that child, when my wife found out that she was pregnant, I was excited. I was elated. And I remember, fast forward 9 months, this child was being born at the hospital, and 2 o'clock in the morning, this child was born. That morning, when I went to my car, because of where I was parked, the window had been broken and somebody had burglarized my vehicle, and I couldn't care less. You could have stolen the car. I have a beautiful bouncing baby. I don't care what you did. And then I started posting on my status, and people who have gone before, like, okay, well, you're going to see just now. I'm like, who wants to sleep when you have such a beautiful baby? And I literally stayed up all night watching that baby, making sure that the air does not suffocate this baby. Now, please don't, our viewers, please, I'm talking about my experience in the past. I know better now. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make sure there's no crease in the bed sheet, in the bassinet, so to suffocate my child. I'm gonna make sure that everything is in place. And I'm like, I stayed up right through the night, and persons say, well, by the third day you're gonna feel it. I'm like, please, I'm not gonna feel anything. Man, when I had to wake up, my wife and I had to wake up, take turns to help feed that child. Listen, my wife on the third and fourth shift, like, you did not wake up. Like, I'm tired and whatnot. So that was my experience. I was so excited. I thought I was invincible in every single way. And so I can never forget that. When they broke my window, I just went and repaired it. I couldn't care less. You could do whatever I want because I have everything that I needed in the world at the time.
You know the thing they say, never see come crazy? That's exactly you, brother.
That was indeed me. Now I'm looking back, and after the second child, I'm like, okay, all right. Yeah, that was me. I can admit that.
Bernard, you being the more senior of all of us in terms of father, having 4 kids, do you think how has life changed during that process of being a father?
Well, for me, it's sacrifice, because remember I said independence is the key thing, and so stuff you would have done for yourselves, trips you would have taken, lives you would have organized, and so on, even cars you would have bought, and so on. You have to rethink in terms of your spending, your expenditures on your investments, what you do, the business options that you get into, and so on. So you have to become constantly thinking of my kids' independence down the road. So in terms of security, first thing as a solution, one of the things that I was preoccupied with was land security, because we all live in St. Lucia, and we all, you want as a parent growing up, you want to make sure that your kids have a piece of St. Lucia waiting for them as well. And so I was preoccupied with land security. So one of the first things I did, make huge sacrifices to be able to at least secure land, and secured land for each of my kids. So to make sure that they wouldn't go through what I had to go through, especially if you're going to study and so on, you need to have security and that kind of thing. So I was thinking of down the road in terms of their education, their savings accounts, and those kind of things. So there's bad to make sacrifices, stuff I had to sacrifice certain things, because I couldn't do what I wanted to do, travel as when I wanted to travel, because I was always paying something, and so that was what the things that and I don't regret it. Because I'm seeing that it's good to have that foundation that you can build on. And so one of the key things I always encourage people to do is start your college account, your savings accounts for the kids as early as from day one, or even before they're born. So at least you want to make sure that they have this advantage, this edge going into the future. So one of the first things I learned was just making sure that I perpetuate that theme of independence, and that I'm sure that they have a foundation moving on to the next level.
Thank you for that. Pastor Daniel, I know you also you knew but not too new, but what part of parenting have you enjoyed the most thus far?
Just seeing how I can sacrifice. If if the world is at war and I'm in the cave, okay, and you say, I have your children, come out. I say, hey, I'm over here, come get me. And so self-sacrifice, just to see a little you in somebody, and to recognize that you have learned at their tender age how to sacrifice. I think I've had this conversation with my wife, and sometimes the challenge between your understanding of your commitment to your spouse and your children when the children are young, there's a challenge. And then my wife will be like, well, if you have one piece of bread, who are you going to give it to? I'm like, that's a trick question, but wouldn't you want me to give it to our children? Kind of thing. And so it teaches you how to sacrifice, and it also challenges you to see how you can, without reservation, put somebody else before. And it, in that regard, I must say that that's one of the things that it helps me to recognize.
Thank you for that. Kurt, to you, what's been your biggest adjustment? Is it lack of sleep or changing the diaper?
To be honest, I think the biggest adjustment is the lack of sleep. The first few months when he had to wake up every 2 hours, I think it was, for feeding, etc. That kind of took a toll, that was a shock for sure. But as time went along, you get into the group of things, you get into a routine almost. It became easier, and it became like clockwork, and here we are. But for sure, the lack of sleep was the biggest hurdle that I had to overcome. Yes.
Okay, cool. We want to say again, good night to everybody. I think Beverly just said having kids is like having your heart outside of your body. That's a good one, right? That's a really
very good one.
Bernard, let me ask, if you could go back, what would you do differently, if anything?
I the way I live life is I see everything that has happened to me as something that was probably expected, predicted, prescribed. And so, like I said, I try not to regret things that have happened in life. And so I don't want to rewrite the script in a sense. But I mean, some of the things that I mean, if I had to, I mean, I'd probably be more steeped in fatherhood and so on. Because, like I said, you were learning as you go along. And so you didn't, I wasn't technically prepared, you know, for the role to say, oh, I'm ready now and let's roll. And so I would have probably done things differently in terms of just how you relate to the kids and so on. I mean, you deal with them as team members because you're basically building a team in the family. And so everybody has a role to play in the team. And so you're going with that. And I would have paid more attention to individual, you know, to individual needs of when I say needs, not technically what they need, but just the personalities and so on, just to pay more attention to because everybody's a different personality. And I'm learning very quickly that all my children have different personalities that you have to deal with as they go along. And they're finding their own personality, so you can't force them to be a clone of what you are, your thinking and your thoughts and your values and so on as they go along based on the experiences that they have, what they're exposed to and so on. You have to learn to accept, okay, this person is a little different and you have to deal with it as it is, especially as the pastor was mentioning, when you have daughters see things differently. So you have to basically work with your daughters as they are. So they basically will dictate a lot of things to you and you have to go with the flow. And so I've learned that, yes, certainly you have to treat your daughters differently in terms of just not only with kids gloves in a sense, but just to make sure that you understand them because there's a lot of sensitivity that you have to deal with and so on. And so I probably would have been a little more attentive, but sometimes, like I say, we go so far so good, and I go with the flow, and I hope that it's a learning process for me. So I'm still learning as we go along.
Thank you for that, gentlemen. You know, we've heard a lot because when it comes to murders, they're not wanting us to go into murders, but when it comes to murders, it is always this massive celebration. When it comes to Father's Day, it's always that low-key kind of thing, and you know, sometimes we talk about fathers not being involved and fathers not being present and fathers not taking part in what's going on in the kids' life. And I wanted to make a comparison about fathers of long ago. How do you compare fathers of long ago to now? Do you think fathers before were tougher? And do you now think that fathers of today are more involved in the lives of the children? And we'll start with you, Pastor Daniel.
You put me in a tough spot because now it's almost like whatever I say, you know, is going to speak to an elephant in the room or a situation that many persons have found it very difficult to differentiate or to form a conclusion. You're talking about parenting style. When these macho men before did their thing, they focused a lot on providing, and their leadership style was not so much hands-on and involved. Rather, they saw themselves as provider and disciplinarian, and did not do so much of interaction, playing, saying "I love you," and you know that's what they knew, and that's how it is. Listen, I'm telling you, that question might, you know, require a double take and a triple, and because you cannot fully exhaust for lack, you know, because of time and different perspective, because there are so many factors or variables that would determine how these men did what they did, whether or not the parenting style were passed on, whether or not they were not so in tune with their emotion, you know. But one thing we can say is that these are two different types of parents. These men did not do homework like we are doing now. They went to work, and the leadership role and the house responsibility, the role of the men, they were different. And so it helped shape what these men did And now we are left to interpret whether or not these men were emotionally intelligent, if these men were sensitive, if these men did not, in the name of discipline, cause more damage and harm, or on the contrary, do we have men who are too soft now, and as a result, not raising tough men or tough children, but just making everything cute and allowing the children to do whatever they want. So there are other men here, so I want to hear what they have to say, and I'm pretty sure in the chat room or whatnot, persons will have their perspective. But that one, I want to say, hey, my disclaimer: I do not have the full perspective on that one, because it's something that we can spend hours talking about, mentioning every factor and why it may have been so.
Thank you. I think that's a great perspective on it, to be honest. I don't think there's a right or wrong way. I just think it depended on the time as well, and how probably they were even brought up as well. So I think there are a lot of factors involved. Bernard, do you want to share your 2 cents on this one?
Yeah, I mean, it was a different era altogether. Well, first of all, I didn't grow up with my father, so I grew up with my stepfather, and maybe I can make a picture for stepfathers. I think I have the best stepfather in the world, and so we need to have a stepfather day as well to celebrate that. But yes, I mean, I'm not saying we're not disciplined now, but it was stricter in terms of the discipline at the time. Now you can talk. You can't discipline your kids the way you were disciplined. So that's very different in terms of just how you approach things. I mean, I never hugged my father or my stepfather ever. Now your kids are hugging you all the time. The kind of jokes that they will give with me, they will poke fun at me, they will mock me and stuff like that. I couldn't do that with my father or my stepfather. So that's a different thing. I appreciate that upbringing, because it gave you the discipline, it gave you the focus. In terms of my father, was workaholic. In a sense, he always looking out for his family. So he was always. So what I knew of him is he was always working, and so I got some of that work ethic in terms of always doing something to improve your family and so on. And my father was always focused on that and making sure that everything's for the family and so I have a little bit of that in me, and so I accept that the time's different. The way we spoke and so on was different too. There was more difference in terms of just how you spoke to your father. Now my kids are a little more open in conversations and so on. So I accept that reality, that's what it is. And so, but I don't regret the upbringing that we had. It was tough. It was more disciplined and so on in terms of how they disciplined you. And now it's different. You can't talk too rough to your kids at this point. You have to basically try to understand them, try to reason, and like they say, if you play cricket, you let certain things go outside the off stump and so on. But that's the reality. That yes, different, but we have to deal with it as it comes.
Thank you for that, Bernard. Kurt, you want to share anything on that?
What is the question again? I was just taking in all the information.
We were kind of making the comparison, fatherhood of long ago, before, right, and the fatherhood of today, and wondered what are your thoughts on those two style of parenting, kind of.
Okay, well, fatherhood. I mean, I'm fairly young myself, so I don't have much to go back on in terms of life experiences. The most I would say is that, like the 2 previous gentlemen said, things are a bit different now. So fathers from before were a lot more strict. If you look around, I mean, even in St. Lucia, you see the whole dynamic of how kids are a lot more, what's the word? A lot more free, right? As compared to previous times. So I would say the fathers of today are a lot more softer in the way they handle the kids. They're a lot more emotional. They're a lot more, if I might say so, caring. I hope I'm not too forward in saying that, but that's my perspective of things.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. And again, I think Pastor Daniel alluded to that. It may not be that they were not in touch with the emotional side of things, but maybe it's just the way that they showed it, right? Because I think fathers of long, even now, we are providers. Don't get us wrong, but I'm saying maybe before, maybe parents or fathers felt, I'm going out there to make some money and bring money to the house and to feed the family. And maybe they didn't take enough time to understand the emotional needs of the children. One of the things for me growing up, I didn't think I heard enough is that I love you. I didn't hear that enough. And one of the things I've always done is to always tell my kids how much I love them. And if you ask my daughter, my son today, what is something that your dad always says to you? And should say, or he would say, I love you. I'd call my daughter all the time and say, Lucas or Eden, come, I want to tell you a secret. Oh, daddy, I know what the secret is. What's the secret? I love you. I just want to make them know that I love them. I really, really love them. And I say it and I actually try to show it as well. Rachel Smith just said, how can you go with the flow? I think that may have been in connection with a question that Bernard was answering. She always is speaking as a mom with both boys and girls. And then Glenna just said, there's no handbook to parenting. I'm happy when fathers take the time to play a pivotal role in the children's life. Fathers play a vital role in the children's success, both at home and at school. And Bernadette says, Happy Father's Day to all the wonderful fathers in the world, especially Peter D. and Kurt. Thank you, Auntie. Thank you for that. I had to read that one. My aunt was just bigging me up there. Let's talk a little bit about, in life, we're all busy. We're all doing different things. We have our jobs. We have different things to do. I know Pastor Daniel is very involved in community and have so many different things doing. Bernard, you as well, Kurt, you doing your job. How do you balance being a father and also with the demand of work? How do you balance it? And Kurt, I want to start with you. How do you strike that balance as a young dad?
I try to ensure that, I make time for my son. As you mentioned, I have full-time employment, plus I have another business that I run that my late brother left for me. So there's often times when I can't be out of the house a lot. So when I am home, I ensure that, if whether he's asleep or awake, or especially when he's awake, I play with him, I read books to him, we run around the house together. So I try to ensure that every day I spend time with him, I play with him, just to have that connection, and he knows that daddy is here and I will always be here, that kind of thing. So that's what I try to do.
Thank you for that. Bernard?
Well, that's one of my biggest challenges. Remember, I did say my father was a workaholic, and so I've taken a little bit of that. And it's one of the things that I wish. There's always work, but you do have to make a sacrifice. And sometimes you miss certain things, some key activities, and so on. And that's where a very supportive mom and wife comes in terms of, helping to fill some of that role. So I must admit that's one of the things I have challenges with, because when you work for yourself, you constantly have to be at work in a sense, and especially when you're working for your kids, you have to make sure that the business succeeds, that you make sure that you're living up to your end, especially if you have clients and so on. And so that has been one of my challenges in terms of not always being there, but I've always showed support. I'm always encouraging, and I'm always giving advice and always facilitating as well, because you would make sure that if they're into sports or whatever it is, you try to make sure that they have the facilities, or you get them because you have to drop, pick up, and all that kind of thing. You want to make sure that you're there. So I'll probably drop you at the dance recital. I may not be there for the entire show, but I dropped in a picture up and that kind of thing. So it's one of the areas that I have struggled with in terms of always being there. I wish I had the time to always be there, but I have always given support in any way I can, and so I am still working on this. It's still a work in progress at this moment.
Thank you for that, Bernard. Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah. Before I answer that question, I'm hoping that you would be able to indulge me for a second, because I am eager to give a shout out to all the stepfathers. As Bernard mentioned, the stepfather, and jokingly sometimes we say kiss priest, beau-père. Let me tell you something. There are men who did not, were not biological fathers of these children, and you would not know because of the commitment level. Sometimes even to the stepchild, you know, more than their own, so that this stepchild does not feel in any way disenfranchised or feel because they're not the actual father that, you know, they are limited in any way, emotionally, financially, in all other ways. And sometimes we don't mention and say thank you enough to these stepfathers who came in, and sometimes these actual fathers do not carry their weight, they don't take their responsibilities. And I did not grow up with a stepfather, but I never fail as a community leader and a church pastor. I never fail to acknowledge there are some great stepfathers, right from, you know, a child, toddler, way up to college, and funded right through without asking or expecting anything in return. And if I could have, you know, ask everybody to give a rousing round of applause to these stepfathers today. Among everything else we'll talk about, I just want to big up the Kiss priests.
Totally.
Right. And so thank you for that. The challenge for me, like I mentioned, we were at a stage in our lives where we had gotten certain things out of the way, like education out of the way, in part, at least what we thought would be okay. So we were more prepared to have children. And so we didn't have to juggle so much, you know, having children and work can be so busy, except if we wanted to pursue other things. And a couple times we failed miserably, where, you know, mom-in-law or family or friends or church members had to come in and to help assist us in our absence. But we quickly realized that nothing you can put above your presence with your children. And they grow up so quickly that you do not want to miss those, you know, stages in their lives. And there are a lot of people out there, especially fathers, who have made sacrifices, and mothers too, and or the couple together, to say, listen, you stay in the home to take care of those kids while at work, because the money that we would have given to the babysitter, you know, if both of us are working, it makes no sense. And then you have to have that responsibility. And sometimes the men step in and they have to cook, and sometimes they have to find some, I mean, I know sometimes I've had to look for some rubber band and give her one plait, or do something that ordinary I would not have done, but my wife is not there and I have to step in and you know, and that speaks to how busy we could be sometimes. But we made it our duty as much as possible after some failures to make sure that we're never too busy to not be there, at least one of us, with our children, because nobody else, and you know, I might sound like a papa bear, but nobody else can really sense intuitively what your child is going through, no matter how much they love their child and how much they, an actual parent who can almost know what that child is going through, even if that child hasn't uttered a word. And so there are some great step and in-laws and whatever, kudos to you. But as much as possible, juggling, making sure that you are present. And in some cases, if you have failed and it's not too late, you can have some kind of, you know, adjustment and do it well.
Thank you for that. And that is so true. But like anything else, all good thing must come to an end, and so must Bouyon. Let me tell you, the time just flew by, guys. It's almost like we haven't spent an hour here, right? We've been here almost an hour. You know, it's just crazy when you're having a conversation and it's flowing. It just feels so good, you know. Let me ask that question, and I'll start with you, Bernard. What legacy would you like to leave for your children? How, in the next 20 years, when your children speak of you, what would you like to hear them say?
That I gave them the best foundation. I put them on course to deal with life as it is. And they tell you now, because like I think somebody mentioned earlier on, you say certain things to them, and I think somebody mentioned 30 minutes later, but like 3, 4, 10 years later, they start repeating the things that you said to them, and you said, okay, well, they were listening when you thought they weren't listening. And so I'm hoping that they're listening. And especially, like I said, one of my key things is independence, not just economic independence, because I want them now to start thinking of independence for their children as well. So, and my thinking of independence, if you're from St. Lucia, wherever you're from, that you need to own a piece of your country. So I'm thinking that they should start now. I've been telling them that start to prepare for your kids to make sure that they have a piece of St. Lucia. So start thinking of saving to buy. So what I'm hoping that they will understand is the values that I try to instill in them, to just be kind to people, to especially people who are less fortunate than you, trying to assist, trying to help as much as possible. Always think of your role in terms of helping to improve the quality of life for not just yourself, but for other people around you. And so to care as much as possible. I want my children to care for other people, especially solutions and people that they grow up with, and so on, to make the community a better place. And I'm hoping that they will say that I give them a good grounding. But even as we speak, they're mocking me about certain things. Like if I want to try to preach punctuality to them, listen, you have to get to school on time, so let's leave on certain time. They figure I'm harassing them in the morning. But I'm trying to get them to understand punctuality is key, because when you get to the world of work, that's one of the things you need to understand. And so I'm hoping that I'm happy that they're kind of listening now. Even 10, 15 years later, they will repeat what you're saying, and I'm hoping that they will start to pass that on to the next generation. So I'm hoping that they will say that I give them a good grounding and a good foundation.
Thank you, Bernard. What about you, Pastor Daniel?
For me, I want my kids to say that Dad was there, and that not only I was good to them, but to the community. I believe if my kids could say Dad was a good husband to Mom, a good pastor to the community, a good father to us, that would mean that I would have done well, for the most part. And like I said earlier, I see myself as a steward. Those kids belong to God. And I want to know that God would say, well done, son, for raising those precious jewels that I gave to you.
Thank you for that. Kurt? You're muted. Unmute yourself.
Apologies. Yes,
That's all
yes.
right.
Can you hear me clearly now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, good. Yeah. What I want my son to remember is that Daddy was always present. That he understands the importance of family. He understands the importance of caring about people. That he fears the Lord. That is very important. And just that, that I was there and that I loved him and I cared about him, and instill the proper values and ethics in him so that he could be a positive contributing member to our society later on in life. So yes, that's the legacy.
Thank you for that, Kurt. So guys, we almost out of time, but I want to give everybody 30 seconds to, the fathers listening to us. What would, in 30 seconds, what will you say to fathers listening to us tonight? What message do you have for them? Kurt, I'll start with you, and then we'll move to you, Pastor Daniel, and then you, Bernard.
Being there is very important. We could say everything, we could try to make as much money as possible, but I think being there for your children is very important. I think, spending time, all those things are vital to ensure that your children grow up to be great individuals. And I think there needs to be more relevance on fathers and importance of fathers in our society. We're seeing the effects. I like to think so, of the lack of fathers in our modern day society in St. Lucia. So I think there needs to be more importance on fathers and fatherhood moving forward.
Thank you. 30 seconds, Pastor Daniel.
Well, I believe a man must examine himself and know what type of man he is and who he is. And if he needs healing, he has to heal, because whatever he is, that's what he's going to teach his children. And so the first person the man has to work on is himself. And then after that, he will be able to shape society with his hands by the grace of God.
Thank you for that. Bernard, 30 seconds.
It's in addition to what everybody else said, I concur. Especially fathers and young men and boys, respect each other, respect the girls, the women in your life, and so on. And I think to me that's the key thing: just respect each other. But especially considering what's happening, we have to respect our women.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Bernard. Thank you. I want to thank our guests. I just want to read what Rachel Smith just said. She said, at the end of it all, men are to lead the family to God, because only God can give them a wonderful future. Amen, amen, and well said. Thank you so much. Once again, gentlemen, I want to say thank you so much for being on the Bouyon Talk Show. I will see you guys behind the scene. Don't go away, just stay back for me for a minute. But once again, I want to thank our audience. I want to say thank you so much for being part of our Bouyon Talk Show tonight. We will see you guys next time. So good night. Thank you once again.